you're live.
Hello, everybody. I've got people texting me like, what's going on? No show tonight. No, we are on. We just have some technical difficulties, so we're running a little bit behind. But if you are live with us, please let us know where you're watching us from. Say hello. We'd love to do shout outs. As usual, Callie will do her sharing while I'm trying to engage and
if you are if
you go ahead and just interrupt me. I wasn't finished with my intro.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You're fine.
No, I was going to say, if you ping us and if you DM us and ask us, please say hello so that we know that you're watching, because we're getting messages from people that we don't believe are watching. And then it's nice to see that you guys are kind of waiting for the show to happen.
Absolutely. All right. We've got some people already saying hi. Thank you so much for joining. So if you are live with us, let us know where you're watching us from. And please help share this live. We've got 4 awesome women on with us tonight to tackle this topic of what do women really want. We're going to touch on a whole bunch of different things. And so please stay engaged. Let us know your thoughts. Put your thoughts in the comments. Share it with your comments in your tagline, whatever it may be. We're going to start off in a little bit here. Again, Callie's sharing. And so if you guys are live, say hi. Too Long says he's watching from Leela's living room. Yes, thank you so much for the support. Just make sure you got headphones on because we ain't trying to hear ourselves echo too long. Julie from Ohio, hello. Tiffany says women wants everything. Yes, we certainly do. We do want everything. We've got someone from Chicago supporting Maiku. Okay. Someone says, Liz says we really just want food. That too. We do want food too. Yes. But we'll touch on all of those topics tonight. We've got an amazing show. So stay tuned. Again, you guys, if you have any questions that you want us to answer, or if there's something that you want us to talk about, put it in the comment section and we'll try to get to it. We have an agenda of our own tonight and some questions that we want the ladies here to kind of help us talk about, but that doesn't mean that we won't be pulling from our viewers. So if you guys have something juicy, a topic that you want us to talk about that's related to our topic, or a question that you want us to help answer, please make sure you jot that down in the comments, okay? I'm going to go share really quick here, and then we will get started. Kelly, are you almost done? Maybe. Okay. We've got Charlotte, North Carolina. Hello. Annika, Minnesota. We've got a couple people from Chicago supporting it. We've got Minnesota's always in the house. We've got California. Hi, everybody, and welcome. If you're just tuning in, we are talking about what women want tonight. We've got 4 amazing ladies here tackling this topic with us. So let us know where you're watching us from. Say hello. Callie and I are just sharing this into our personal and to some of the groups, and then we will get started.
We are so excited for this conversation tonight. I know that people have asked for honesty, and we just do want to say that if you want honesty, we hope that you can handle it. I'm sure people are going to come on and see like 6 women talking and be like, oh, Lord, they're just complaining. But this is a great chance for us to really be able to voice the things that we really want. And so I would say take it as, like take the stuff that you want away from it, as in us being real. And, if there's parts that you don't think you care about, then don't take those parts. But this is us trying to be as, just as open and honest as possible about the things that we really care for. So if you ask for it, you better be ready to receive it. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Well, and also know it's women. Every woman is different. We all look for different things in our expectations. So take it with a grain of salt, what you will. But yes, it'll be a what did they say? A spicy conversation. Yes, for sure. All right. Shall we get started?
Yes.
You done? Okay. So I'll pass it over to Callie. She's going to do the intro really quick, bring the ladies on, and we'll get this conversation going.
All right. So if you are just now jumping on, we are doing a What Women Want episode. And so we've searched from, Midwest, from East Coast. And so we try to cover the grounds in terms of the women that we are bringing on. We have women who have been married, who are married, and then women who have not been married. And so really trying to, target a wide range. But of course, like Olivia says, we are just 6 women. And so we're not saying we stand for all women. And so we would love for you, as we're having these conversations, for you to also comment and let us know, right? So women, if you agree, disagree, have thoughts, please definitely share them in the comments. And if you're a man and watching and you're confused or you completely disagree or someone has told you otherwise, please comment so that we can have that conversation. We'll definitely pull some stuff from the audience because this is, I think, definitely like an ongoing conversation, and it differs so much between women and like depending on where they're from, their age, where they're at in their life, and so it's gonna all differ. But we really are dependent on you guys as well to participate and give us your thoughts on this. And so we have MK from Milwaukee, Leela from LA, Leah from Fresno, and then Chong from Wausau. So again, we are trying to really hit everybody. So I'm going to bring everyone on. There's a lot of us, so it's a little bit. Hello, ladies.
Hi. Hello.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. I know this is something that I've been reading a lot about, where men feel like women were not as honest about what we want. You can say vice versa. But I think for tonight, we're just going to focus on what women want. And then we're going to have an episode in the near future about what men want, to kind of really bring both pictures in and kind of have that discussion. So thank you, ladies, for being here tonight with us.
And the funny thing is that when we first put this post up, we actually had a lot of men telling women what women want. So it was really interesting. So I'm glad that we're actually having the episode so that women can actually speak up for themselves and tell men what we want instead of having them make assumptions.
Exactly. All right. So we've got some like warm up questions for you guys before we get to all of the juicy things. And so let us know, ladies, how's husband? Is that a good or a bad thing? What do you think?
I think it's a good thing. If the wife is able to support the family, and childcare is so expensive nowadays, and there's so many issues, social media and everything. If you prefer to have one of the parents at home, and if the wife is making the money, then the husband being at home, helping with the kids, doing most of the cooking and cleaning, doing his part right in the relationship, because it's a partnership. And so I think it's great.
I don't have a lot of experience in regards to this, but I do have some thoughts to add. I think it's really a conversation that both partners have to have, and they have to agree on. There's certain expectations that we have to set and hold ourselves accountable for, and I think that's really what's going to set the tone as to whether it works. And I think checking in with each other just to see if it's going well still, because it's definitely a trial thing. I think that sometimes we sign up for something that we think we may be ready for, and it turns out we're not. So I think it's good. It's always good to check in.
Yeah.
Personally, I like the idea of a house husband, but I think I'm a little bit more traditional, and I think equal, where I think both partners should work. I just think that you can contribute more when you feel, because I think if there's something with the idea of like both partner working and putting the same kind of amount. Not that I like the idea of it, but I don't know if I think that's something that could be potentially, again, comes with communication. I think you just have to really talk to your partner and see if that fits with your lifestyle. Obviously, every relationship is different, and I don't personally have that experience, but I think I would want both like equally put in the share of like the finance and everything.
Mm.
It definitely doesn't work for every relationship. Like some relationships that works, and others, if it doesn't, that's fine too. I personally think it's a beautiful thing if the husband wants to be that father figure around his kids and spend time with them. I think that's really beautiful because that's often something that's expected amongst the wife and the woman to do. But when a man steps up and actually does that, I don't think that makes him like emasculated in any way. I think it's just a beautiful thing for him to take up that opportunity to be there for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really open, because I think that women are not looked down on when we stay home. I think it's a little bit more open. And, like, I think now that women are more, kind of like go-getter and have more opportunities, sometimes they do make more, and sometimes they do, end up being the breadwinner in the family, and I think it does take a certain couple to be able to, have the man stay home and still have that respect so that he doesn't feel like he's less of a man, and I think there is kind of a double standard sometimes when we look down on men that stay home. I think it's unfair to, to feel like their role, because I think raising kids is, like really, really important, and I know that some of y'all have kids and some don't, but, I mean, I'm sure you can look at your, nieces and nephews and recognize that, raising children is really hard. And having stayed home, it's not easy. And I think sometimes when you're the stay-at-home spouse, sometimes the other spouse can sometimes come home and be like, oh my gosh, the house isn't clean, or like, like, what did you do all day, when it's like you've been struggling with the kids, trying to clean, trying to play with them, trying to entertain them. And so I think just something to think about, as we, try to be more open-minded and not look down on men that do end up staying home. Again, like MK says, I think it is a beautiful thing, and, is kind of dependent on the couple.
Agreed.
All right. Second question. Does love distract you from your goal? Has it distracted you from your goals in the past? Do you think it kind of gets in the way now? I know that y'all are all ambitious women, achieving lots of great things, going for, high degrees. And so do you feel that love can distract you from your goal?
I would say so, but then I think it also depends where you are in the steps of like reaching your goal. If you're at the beginning, most likely it may distract you if you're still really ambitious and you want to focus on your goals. But when it's later on where like you reach your goals and now you're just slightly trying to move up the ladder, love might not actually be distracting as much anymore because you're kind of set with where you are and you have that time for love, for a partnership. So I think where you are in your goals, like that really impacts whether love does distract you. But then again, it's like a give and take. It's like, do you have time for love? Do you have time? Are you gonna make that time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. So I feel like for me, it depends on the situation, because I mean, I don't really get deterred from my goals easily. Like if I set out a goal, I'm gonna get it done, and there's no one that's gonna stop me. But at the same time, I feel like as I'm growing into the person I am, my goals may change. So as I'm changing in the relationship, my goals will change, and then it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because of love that's deterring me from my goal, but it may just be that I've changed and grown into someone else, and I may go in a different route. But I feel like at times there are times where we do get a little bit distracted by love, but eventually hopefully find that balance, because if you don't, then it's definitely a bad thing.
Yeah, and I want to add to that too. I think when you're kind of in like this new love, when you're younger, you think of high school, you think of, yes, I do think it does distract you from like going to college or like what you want to do kind of thing, because you're just so in this zone of like, yes, like young love, that's all we know. However, I do think with age, like I think if you're like in your 30s, I don't think that's a distraction. I think if more anything, it's kind of motivating to have like that partner who's like encouraging and who can like motivate, like you guys motivate each other. I think having, it just depends on your relationship and your partner. I find it more motivating that you guys can both be achieving these amazing goals together, and you have your own goals obviously, but you know, he has, or your partner has their own goals too. So I do think, if anything, I think that is the foundation, and where you're at in your life. I could see like myself young, and it could be distracting. And then right now, I could see it more motivating, and just kind of, we're doing our own thing. We're trying to do our own goals, but we're motivating each other. And I think it's not distracting at all. So that's where I'm at.
I'm actually guilty of choosing love over goals. But, you know, for me, I value that, you know, I'm a romantic at heart. And so I value love more than financial security, you know? And so if I had to choose, I would rather choose love. I would, because for me, my goals, they change all the time, you know? And if it doesn't work out, I'm making a new plan, or I reset it and I try it over again. But for me, finding love, that's hard, you know, to find that one person that can make you happy. I would definitely choose love over my goals.
And that's totally okay. I think even for me, like, it's all about communication. You know, our goals do shift and we do have to pivot depending on, you know, what challenges may come up. But I think for me, I choose both. I want someone who can support my goals, because I think it is really important that your partner, I think Leela, it was you who said that you may have shared goals, or someone did shared goals, but you have separate goals for your own self-growth too. And I think it's important to communicate your goals with whoever you end up with, or you're with at the moment, so then they know how to support you, and share that with them. Like, I need you to support me in this way. And so I think it's all about communication. I don't think that it's a distraction. Chong, I agree. I think when you're a little younger, it definitely can. But I think as we age and we kind of know where we're at and what we want in life, I think it's an amazing thing if you can find someone who can be there for you and support you through all of your endeavors, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that having that big vision together is really important, right? Like if your big vision is that you want to have a big company and you want to, you know, like do really well in that, and then you have a partner who really wants to focus on family and really need a lot from you, then I think that doesn't really work. And I think you really do have to like assess if you're going to pick each other over, you know, those goals, right? Family goals versus like career goals. And so I think having that conversation like early on, so that you both know what you're going in for, because I you know, I do feel like that can really, you know, just tear you guys apart if you know, you want this luxurious traveling life with, you know, a lake house, and somebody else is like, oh, you know, I just want to, like, you know, be a homebody and just hang out with our friends and family. You know, I think that makes it really hard. Or you have to be able to establish that independence and say, you know, we're still a couple, we're still in love, but we can still do a lot of these things separately.
Yeah. All right. So ladies, is it possible to live with a person you don't love?
I think it is, you know, like depending on like how you see it or your perspective. I mean, I've lived with roommates, and you know, like I love them, I don't love them, you know, they're there. Like it's possible for me to live with somebody I don't love. We're speaking in the aspects of roommates or friends or whatnot, but we're talking about as in love. I think that if you set boundaries um and expectations, you can live with each other. But if the other person is not able to meet those expectations, then you need to reevaluate the situation and move forward from it. For example, I've lived with previously, before I moved out by myself, I lived with 5 other guys, and you know, I was able to live with them fine. They're actually, I now that I think about it, I prefer living with men. They're a lot, like, not to say anything against women, but you know, I feel like they're a little easier just to live with because they're more relaxed. They don't really get into like, you know, I don't always have to be super vulnerable around them. Like, just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Things like that, because I do like my own space. I do like to reflect my days. And growing up with 8 sisters, I, you know, don't really get that. So I kind of respect that.
Yeah.
So Leela, so then if we take like the roommate out of the question, right? Do you feel like you could be with somebody that you don't love? So I think this question is more, yeah, like being with someone that you don't actually love. And
Being
have
with
have any of you been with somebody that you don't actually love, but you're just kind of, like with them?
Okay. Yeah, I think I was able to be in a relationship like that for about 2 years. I was with him because, if we go back to the term good guy, he was a different guy that I dated. He treated me really well, but at the same time, there was no chemistry. So it was like I loved him, but I was not in love with him. So I kind of like let it drag on for 2 years, and I finally said, "Hey, it's not going to work out. I've tried for 2 years, but I'm just not feeling the connection. So I do apologize, and then we just kind of moved on. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think I can be with someone that I don't love.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to make that relationship work if you don't love this person because, we're all not perfect. And sometimes, even if you love somebody, they can still annoy you and do things that irritates you. And it's the love. For me, it's the love that lets me overlook those flaws and, accept him for who he is. But if I don't love him, I don't think I can tolerate it. That's just how I feel about that.
I think for me, I would not be able to, just because if I'm not in love, I don't think I can just love a person just to live with them. Like you're thinking like forever. You're thinking this is your longtime partner. So I don't think so. I just think that you know there's no like spark, no chemistry. Obviously, there's more to that, but if you don't really, you love this person or you don't, like, it's just, I don't think you can unless you're in love with them. Like, you're not going to be committed. Like, let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with everyone. I think it's definitely possible to live with a person that you don't love. Like, I seen relationships like that around me? Yes. Do I recommend it? No. I personally think if you don't love someone, let them go, because you're wasting their time and you're wasting your time. If you don't love them, let them go. Let them find someone who will love them the way that they love that person.
Yeah, so that question kind of stems from just the thought that, like, I think that women are like that we can learn to love someone, right? Like, I feel like I always hear that men can't learn to love someone, but that women can. So I was just curious, if what you guys think about that. And it sounds like we cannot learn to love somebody, no matter how good or nice or all the things that you do. Without those feelings, it's hard to be with them.
I don't think that it's not possible. Our parents, older generation do it all the time, but again, different circumstances.
Right, because I definitely feel like there's a lot of people together who are just now together for this, right? So is it like better just be together, just to still stay together because of kids, or is it better to like go and try to find somebody? Or but at some point, right, if you're older, you might be like, let's just live until the end of life and then like be okay with that.
I just want to add too, I do think, then you kind of end up settling. And I think that's a lot of the older generation. We do only have one life. And I think like to settle and stay with this person who just, we don't really love, or we love, but we're not in love. I think that, it really doesn't work. But maybe I'm coming from a perspective of, I only have one life. Do I kind of waste it with this person who I don't really love? Or do I really, try to find someone who I am in love with, and obviously it's going to continue with sparks and everything. So I just think it's unfair to that person, and it's unfair to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with what Chong said too, because life is short. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You want to be happy. But if you're in this relationship and you're not even happy because you don't even love this person, I don't know. To me, like Chong said, it's a waste of your life.
And if you think about it, I think nowadays it's just so diverse, and everyone wants something different. So it really does depend on what you want. Some people do have partnerships, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with love. It has to do with them working well together and their needs in the relationship. And if it fulfills their needs, then yeah, go for it. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it working for myself. But I know there are partnerships out there that does work out well.
Yeah.
Let's take this question from the audience. This one is, I know I don't think we do any of this, but I think if I don't know when you guys were younger, if you had, your mom saying, oh, like, have you thought about, this aunt's son or, something like that. So I think let's try to imagine what that might be like. But what are your thoughts on arranged marriage? And could you get into an arranged marriage and be happy?
I think it's possible that you could be happy, but I would not recommend an arranged marriage. I don't know. I just feel like it's barbaric, to kind of force this woman to marry this man, and her whole life is in his hand. It's just like, it's, I don't know, too old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I personally am not for it, but I respect cultures that are okay with it, though. So I don't really have a lot to say about arranged marriages, but I will say that I'm against it just because, we as women and as human beings do have our own rights, human rights. And so, I mean, just to make that kind of decision, it's like a lifelong decision that the parents or, other people are making for them. And I think that takes away a lot of, like, again, just rights.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not for arranged marriage either. I don't think I could ever do it myself either. I personally feel like marriage it's a commitment. It's a lifetime commitment, and that's something that needs to be taken seriously. And you shouldn't just really be marrying someone if you don't really feel those feelings, arranged or not. Like if I ever get an arranged marriage by whoever, I feel like I would do everything in my power to like make him divorce me, just so I can get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a lot of people nowadays can probably agree to what the ladies had just said, that we are in a different, like, day and age now where that's not really necessary, but are respectful to the cultures who still do that. I think that there are lots of like pros and cons to it. So, I feel like we can dive into that on like its own show and bring different people who have been in an arranged marriage and have them talk about their experience. But for sure, I think because of where we are now in the state that we're in, it's probably not favorable to a lot of people, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably one relationship where you do have to learn to love that person, not like without, having seen them. But I mean, I guess in a way, I guess what I've heard about how it does work is that you learn to love the different qualities of them versus maybe like the physical attraction, because I think that that's generally what we pick, right? Like what we're attracted to on the outside, and then we learn to kind of work around who they are as people.
Yeah. All right, ladies. So is it possible to have similar interests and hobbies with someone yet be incompatible? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I don't, for me personally, I don't, from my experience, I have not, like, it doesn't work for me. I think I end up friend zoning them, because, our similarities are connected to me in a different way. I mean, if it's in all aspects, but if it's just enough similarity where I'm interested in them, but there's enough differences. But for me, I'm more attracted to like the things where I myself know that I can do, but it's hard for me to do, because that opposite really, I find it really more attractive than the similarities.
So I think for myself, I do feel like it is okay to have similar hobbies and interests with someone, but be incompatible. So, for example, you can, you like to play soccer or whatever. Your interest is sewing, hiking, but you might not match in like your intellectual conversation and your religious views and political views. So I do think you kind of, in that way, you can be a friend with them, but I don't think relationship wise, I don't think that would work unless you guys obviously communicate. But yeah, I do think you can have similar interests with someone, but it won't work. Like the relationship will not work.
Yeah, it definitely is possible, just because interests and hobbies are things that are external. They're things that the partner likes. It's not necessarily who they are as a person. Like, what are their values? What are their beliefs? Like, what do they like as a person? Are they ambitious? Are they this and that? Like, are they things that you look for in a person? Interests and hobbies, like I said, you can be with someone who you don't have similar interests and hobbies, and later on pick up those interests and hobbies. You can still support them in their interests and hobbies, but not like it yourself. I think it comes down to values, core values and beliefs that really carry on a long-term relationship, and not necessarily interests and hobbies between the both of you.
Yeah, I think that compatibility, in order to make that work, there has to be a compromise between the couple. And if you're just talking about hobbies and interests, like everyone is saying, I feel like those are just outside factors. Those are stuff that you like doing, and it could work too. But I think as long as the couple, if they could like compromise and do a little give and take, where they're not always bumping head, because sometimes people who are very similar, they bump heads a lot because they think alike. And when they both think they're right, neither one of them wants to bow down or back down, And so I can see that being a problem.
Anything to add, Olivia?
Agree with everything. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like it's kind of like compatibility and chemistry, right? You can have compatibility, but without that chemistry, it's really hard to like forge a relationship. But then also, like, I mean, I think for me, like, if we didn't like similar things, it would be really hard. But there's also people in my life where I feel like we do a lot of things together because I enjoy doing these things with them. But like, that's it, there's not, like Tom says, conversations or, things that can kind of like take the relationship deeper. And so definitely agree with y'all on that. Are relationships in recent times becoming more casual and less committed? Why or why not?
I feel like with social media and everybody being online and being able to access profiles from across, out of the country, the option is just so many that if you don't want to settle and you don't want to be unhappy, I feel like you would, move on to the next person and swipe left.
I definitely think relationships nowadays are a lot more casual, and I think a lot of folks nowadays are just in the phase of what are we? They don't really want that long-term commitment. And I think education kind of plays a huge role in it. If you look at statistics, like people are getting married later, not as early as our parents, like older generations. So like a lot of folks, especially women, especially among women, like now that we have the access to education, we're getting higher education, we're waiting longer to get married because we want that master's degree, we want that PhD. We're putting these goals in front of us before we commit to like a relationship and marriage. So I think all of that, it plays a huge role in why there's so much casual relationships nowadays, that no one's really taking seriously until they're like in their late 20s, early 30s.
Right, and I would echo that too with like just nowadays, like it's just easier to swipe left from right, and also with that idea that I think it's just harder to really form more meaningful relationship now because you're asking like deep questions that that's hard, and I think it's just now so much easier with social media to send them a message, but then do you want to develop that further? It's just easier to not ask those tough questions, and I think people are just it's easier to just avoid those questions that makes that relationship go a step further. So yeah, I do think that we are in the age of relationships are casuals and hookups, which is really sad.
Yeah, I think that I kind of think that it's kind of been around for maybe like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. But I think that we as Hmong women are just progressing. But I think it's always been there where, we have couples or relationships where they're more casual, but just never really been in our communities. But now I think with the advancement, just to kind of echo everyone else, with the advancement of technology, it allows us to see what our partners are doing without them knowing. Like we're out there policing, like, come on, girls, come on, ladies, don't be lying. Like we have access to these different platforms. We're like, okay, well, they're doing this, they're doing that. So that trust, it's harder to build, right? And so I think it's really important to be transparent from the very beginning. But yeah, so just kind of echoing everyone else.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like, before where you feel like you have to save yourself for like, your husband, right? And I feel like now it's not as weird that people have multiple partners before they get married. And, like you being able to hold off and say, let me focus on my goals and stuff. And, being in the US, I think it's definitely more individualistic society where, we do kind of get to focus on ourselves versus like thinking I need to like, hit 18 or 21 and get married before I get too old. And I feel like that's continued to be pushed like later and later. And, whether that's like for better or for worse, like I can't say, but, I think that it's more important now than ever, like to be careful about the partners that you pick because they really determine, where your life goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'm not speaking from experience because I've been with my husband for a long time, but I think just kind of seeing like options out there. There's a lot of single people in the world right now, especially in our Hmong community that I see. And I think I agree with you, Leela. I think a lot of it has to do with like Hmong women advance. I can't even talk today. Advancing. And I think we just kind of like know what we want, and we're really not like settling. Like we are really looking for like that right person. And so, but in the meantime, have some fun. I guess that's kind of like where the casual piece comes in until you find like Mr. Right. All right. So going into what women want. So the following questions, I want you ladies to really elaborate on this and really provide our Hmong brothers some like honest answers. Okay. So our first one, we'll start off easy. We're going to dive right in, but we're going to go easy. We're going to talk about their style. Would you prefer your man to, what would like their style be? Like, is there a specific style that you go for? Do you like even look their way if they don't dress a certain way? Like, what do you guys have to say about that? What would you prefer your man to dress like? Don't all speak at once.
I always like a clean cut man. And so like to me, I don't need him to be wearing brand names, but as long as he's clean cut, shaved, clothes are not like dirty or wrinkled, to me that's good.
So I would agree with Leah. With the idea that boys, men's out there right now, I hope you hear this. I think that if you are a 4, like when you have style, you can dress and put yourself, you look good. I think you bump up to a 6 or 7. I just think style is something that some guys just don't think about, and I do think that that's something they should consider. Like, right, you don't need to wear the name brand, but I think when you can look presentable and look like you take care of yourself, you're more likely to get the girl. So I do think that style-wise, personally, I'll do like a clean cut. Men in suit is always sexy. So yes, I definitely do think that style is a big factor. So take notes.
For me, I think that how a person dresses, especially a men, it really says a lot about them. So If they're wearing something very comfortable, I would say, okay, this person's very comfortable around me. If they're wearing something very nice, I would say, okay, well, this person is trying to impress me, which I like. So what else is he gonna bring? So for example, my boyfriend and I, when we go out, he always waits for me to get dressed first, right? Because then he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna see what she wears. And he's like, oh, you're wearing that today? I was like, yeah. He was like, all right, well, let me go change then. So then I know that and he tries to dress and match me a little bit, so it's kind of like, okay, then he really respects like the person that I am, and like he knows that however I dress, we need to look presentable together. And so I think most of the time he kind of looks at me to set the tone for like the what the evening is gonna look like, which I appreciate and I respect. But then ultimately, I think that how a person carries themselves is it's gonna say a whole lot, and it doesn't really matter to me ultimately how they dress like, but when they speak and when they're around people and how they treat others is what's gonna definitely define like my attraction to them.
I echo a lot of the ladies. I think style is a form of expression. So the style, the type of clothing that you wear, like it expresses who you are as a person. And so I am attracted to like a clean cut guy as well, someone who really knows how to dress and how knows how to present themselves really well. But I think in general, like clothing wise, keep it simple. Nothing too baggy, nothing too like heavy. I think just something that really just expresses who you are as a person really says a lot about whether you have like certain goals or whether you have like certain things that you're going for. Like it really says a lot. If someone's wearing baggy pants and probably like a ripped shirt, when a woman looks at you, they get a certain first impression. Versus someone who's wearing like a suit and a tie and dress pants, their first impression of that person is going to be different. So like your style when we see you really plays a huge role in our first impression and how we view you as a man.
Yeah, I think just kind of listening to all of you talk, like everyone has a different we're attracted to different things, right? But I think like I'm just gonna just knock this right out. Like when I first met my husband, he was wearing like baggy pants, like way back, like 22 years ago. So obviously that was not my style, but it's also very easy to change. Like if you love the person and you get to know them and they are really kind-hearted, I don't think it's hard to change someone's style. Or kind of like Leela, what you were saying about your boyfriend kind of like waiting for you to get dressed and then him dressing to match you. I think it's kind of like cosmetic that you can change. It's not definitive. And even for us women, like our fashion changes over time too. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is just like hygiene, just shower, like make an effort, whatever that effort may look like, just make an effort. Like when you are going out in public, like don't, like when you hang out with your friends at a bar or something, like come dress like you and smell clean and, just wash yourself.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
like my
wash
biggest.
yourself.
Yeah, seriously.
And I would say, yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's just those simple things that, we forget. And I would say just for me, like, don't outdress me. Like, I would prefer to like steal the show, than like for you to be. And if you're flamboyant, I would already know that, right? And I would not go for that type of person just because that's me, not that like the spotlight always has to be on me, but when it comes to fashion, I feel like if I'm wearing my nicest dress and bam, you come out and you're like in this like shiny ass like suit, like great for you. Like I don't want you to change yourself, but we will not be together anymore probably after that. Like that's just the way. Like I honestly I never want anyone to change for me, just because I don't feel like if you don't want to change, don't change, because I don't want you to be mad at me later, saying that I made you change. So that's really big for me. But it's just like just please don't outshine me when it comes to fashion. Not that I'm not super fashionable, but like I'm just not into the flamboyant dresser, and definitely dress your age too. I think that as you get older, like like start to have a suit or something, doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be name brand. There's a lot of stuff that like a lot of my stuff is cheaper, but I just try to look decent. And so I think just dressing your age, and like I'm not into skinny jeans, like that's just me, but other women might like it, and so I think it's just like ask your friends too, right? Like like what would you change about the way I dress, because the way that you dress does kind of make a difference. So all right, so that was a pretty easy question for what women want. Okay, the next question is family. What do you want more of? And I think this is in term of like the like your partner, right? Like what maybe their family, and then what you would want to see in your own family too, between you and your partner, and if you have kids or things like that.
For me is honesty. That's what I want more of. Because sometimes when we see something that we don't like, or or they do something that we don't like, and as a family member, you're afraid to tell them directly because you don't want to offend them. But I feel like if they're doing something that you don't think it's right, you should have that conversation and communicate, and say it as nicely as you possibly can, but talk about it, and talk about why you don't like that, the way they're doing something or the way they're acting, whatever that issue is. But at least be honest about it and talk about it, instead of going behind that family member's back and then talking about that person, and you're like just spreading gossip. And when that gossip gets back to that person, guess what? It's gonna hurt that person more. That person's gonna feel betrayed. And in a family, you don't want to have any kind of friction like that, or you don't want to hate that person. But if it gets too far to the point where you don't like each other anymore, and then there's family events and you both have to be there, it could be pretty awkward. And so I just feel like, for family, I would appreciate more honesty and be able to communicate.
For me, I would say the two main things is definitely love and inclusion. So love as in love me as your sister, love me as your daughter. Don't love me as kotunya. And that's a little different if you guys think about it a little bit. And that leads to inclusion is like on their family. You want to feel included. You want to feel like you're part of the family. You don't want to feel like an outsider who just happened to just move in and now you're just kind of stuck where you are. I come from a very family oriented family. Like we're really close. We do a lot of things with each other. We're so close. We include in my nyas, like my brother-in-laws. We include them in everything. So if I get married one day, like I want a family like that who will love and include me the way that my family does with our sisters, our brother-in-laws, and our sister-in-laws.
Okay, well, for me, I kind of echo what Leah and MK said. I think a lot of it it's just communicating and being transparent about the things that we want. And, and I know that not everything is going to be like we don't want the same things or like, but ultimately our goal is to, because we are family, we do want to be good, stay good, continue a relationship, but without the transparency and having a safe space to really talk about these things or even doing the hard work. I mean, these are hard conversations to have, but the fact that, I feel like even from my experience with my family, it's hard for them to be vulnerable about these things. And until we can actually move forward and be able to have that safe space to talk, I feel like it doesn't take our relationships to the next level. Because I feel like we can love a lot deeper if we were to be able to go over that hump. And I think that that's one thing that I would want more of is just being able to be transparent without feeling like you're being judged or that, already having that negative like thoughts, right? Because I really feel like how you think of people is how you talk to yourself. Because I talk to myself internally, right? So I try to be as nice to myself as possible. But when I start seeing myself think like like everyone judges, but it depends on whether you judge in a good way or in a bad way, and it depends on how you deliver it. And I know for me, if I know that my delivery is starting to be mean, I have to reassess myself and think, okay, why am I being mean? Is there something missing? Am I not loving myself this week? So I think that transparency, effective communication will be what I want more of.
And I would agree about the communication part. I think when you're in a relationship where, especially if it's, might get backlash for this, but like if it's in a different race, right? They're not going to understand that in the Hmong community, we are very, family orientated. At least, most of us are. And I want them to, what I want for them to understand that my family, we're really, we're close and we do a lot of things together. I want my partner to understand that my relationship with my family, I want him to be a part of it too. And so I do think it's communication and like what the expectations are. Like, I want you to be in my family and I want you to join us and be a part of us. And whereas maybe, if he's from a different race or, he might not understand that. And I think with communication, you can, that's where the family part for me is in terms of relationship. And what I want from a man is that, it's just really communicating how my family looks like and how I want him to be a part of it and how it looks like. So yeah, communication.
And so just a follow-up to that, like, so if your partner's family wanted to address something with you, would you prefer they just come directly to you or like tell, your like their son, I guess in this case, and then the son tells you? Because I feel like sometimes, and I mean, everybody's experience may be different, but I feel like sometimes when it's like, like your mom might tell you to tell your partner, right? But then it might be like, their sibling or something telling them, and then they would tell you. So do you prefer just like direct communication, or you're kind of like, it doesn't really matter as long as the message gets to me?
I think that takes years to build. I don't think that just comes right away. I think that kind of like what MK was saying earlier, like being inclusive and treating you like you are their own daughters. But I think that also takes time to build because like you do you not, right? Like they're not replacing your mom and dad. But I think just the fact for them to like if there was an issue that they had with their friend or a relative, like they wouldn't go to this person, to that person to get the message to them. They would just either A, avoid it and pretend like it never happened, or B, if it bothered them that much, then they would call and talk to the person about it, right? And so I just feel like with that expectation, it takes time to do that, but also that not everybody does that because that's not the traditional way of how you would handle certain things in our culture. So it is something that is different. But I would have to say that for me, I agree 100% with MK. I think it's all about being inclusive and treating you like you are a part of the family and not someone, because you leave your parents' house. I'm only speaking from my experience as a married Hmong woman to a Hmong man, that when you leave your family, like sometimes you feel like you are an outsider already, because right? Like you're no longer our family. You're over there. Call because you can't technically be in that circle anymore. You're with your husband. And then when you're in your husband's side, depending on how they treat you, sometimes you feel like an outsider too. And so you're kind of like in this position where, well, then where do you belong? Where is your family? Right. And so I don't know. I just feel like being inclusive and just loving everybody as if they are your child. I think that's kind of like what I would love to see more of our Hmong families throughout, not just with mine, but everybody's.
I personally like direct communication. So if there's like a problem or something, I prefer them to come to me directly. I'm not going to get offended, obviously, and it's not going to ruin the relationship, at least from my end. And it goes back to inclusivity. Like, I'm all about communication, all about that. If there's something wrong, I want them to feel comfortable with me enough to just address it with me so that we can kind of get that resolved instead of having it go through another person, because we all know what happens when one thing is said to another person and it's said to another. Like, the information gets distorted. it's all he said, she said, and like the initial thing that the first person said is not going to be what you hear at the end. So I personally think it's always important to directly just go and say it, and hopefully you're comfortable enough to do that and you have that close relationship to just be open and express yourself with each other.
Yeah, MK, you say exactly what I was thinking too. I prefer to receive the message directly, and that way I can ask question. Like, well, how do you want me to change, or how do you want me to do this differently? Because if you don't learn from if you're doing something wrong or not right, and they're just talking behind your back, you don't know how to fix that. But if they come to you and tell you, then maybe you can say, "Oh yeah, I can do that," or "No, can I do this instead?" And like I say, have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would also prefer the direct route just because I feel like, again, just to echo what MK and Leah said, when it goes through too many people, a lot of the conversations, the story gets, it's like playing telephone, somebody may say something different or add one or two words to it, which can completely make the statement wrong. And not only that, but I grew up in a family where parents are divorced. It's kind of like it goes back to inclusivity. Like, uh, we never like. I know Olivia said it takes time to build that relationship and to get there. But then with us, we're very little, and so it's kind of like the open communication is like, this is your new mom, or like, this is your new dad. So we didn't really get the opportunity to be like, oh, we have to build that relationship. It's like, okay, you guys communicated that to me. Now I have to follow through and you have to follow through. We had to practice it every day, right? Saying, okay, so this is my mom. And the fact that she loves us like we're her own, which I say we are very lucky growing up. And my stepdad was the same way. We were very lucky because right away we accepted each other and just kind of moved on from there. So, if my in-law in the future, my in-law was to say, ask my future husband, hey, do you want me to directly talk to her, or do you want me to go, or do you want to talk to her? I would tell her to come talk to me, and vice versa. If my mom or my dad was like, go tell Mohaika, Dulu Ono, I'll probably be like, oh, well, go Mahasimo. He's your son too, so like, let's
Yeah.
not forget that, so let's practice it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So then in that case, we're talking about relationships now, Leila. Thank you for transitioning us to the next question. What do you want more of in your relationship or in a relationship with a significant other or partner?
Well, as of now, I feel like I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. There isn't there isn't anything that is really missing. So far I've gotten all my boxes checked.
Are you just saying that because he's sitting over there?
He knows I'm very honest. So, and there are little things that we work on, like, he'll leave cups all over the house and I'll be like, why do you keep leaving cups all over the house? Why can't you just rinse it if it's just water? Like, it's everywhere. It's kind of like we communicate right away. It's direct, it's right away. And the thing is, communicating is different, right? Like, there's effective communication and there's also communication where it's just not getting through because your delivery is not connecting. And so one thing that we've been working on, or we've been pretty good in, is just communication. And I think what I want more of is probably just to be more time together, because I feel like we're very busy during the week. And I sleep early because I'm old. He sleeps later because he's younger. So it's kind of like, and on the weekends, we get busy doing other chores around the house. So it gets to be very busy. And I feel like when we do finally have time to spend with each other, we're just so tired, So I would definitely say time together.
Yeah, I say time together too. Because me and my husband were both really busy, and then he travels a lot for work too, so he's away from home. And so I would just love more date nights, just me and him together going, out to dinner or go watch a movie or go to the park, take a walk or something, and more Netflix and chill, just being at home together, watching a movie, relaxing, just, be together.
You know, and that made me think when you guys were talking, I just really think it's just depending on your love language. You know, we know the love language, and I think what you want more is different from maybe what your partner wants. And I think communicating that what you want. So like, you know, Leah, you said you want more time, you know, the time spent, you know, maybe that's part of your love language. And I think it's just depending on the relationship and where that's at, if you communicated. So I don't have anything to say regarding that, but I do think it's about love languages and what you want from your partner and what they need to feel love. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
I would say intimacy is definitely something I will want more out of a relationship. Intimacy, that commitment, and just being able to not necessarily read each other, but just being able to look at your partner and know exactly how they're feeling. I'm not saying that you need to read their minds or anything, but I'm saying when you're in the intimate relationship with someone, you kind of know who they are inside out. Like you can kind of see signs when when they're upset, like when they're happy. You know all those little things that tick them off. You know all those little things that make them happy. So just being aware of all of that when you're with them is really huge one. And I think communication and loyalty is also really huge in relationships as well. Like don't play the guessing game. Like communication is important. If you're upset, say it. If you're proud of him, let him know. And then loyalty, of course, loyalty leads to trust. Like you need to be able to trust each other. Of course, sometimes your schedules may not align up. You might not have that time to spend with each other as much as you would like. But as long as you trust each other to always make time when you can, I think that's really, really important in a long-term healthy relationship.
And thanks for bringing up love language, Chong. I think that is really important to like recognize how you feel loved and be able to communicate that, because I think sometimes we don't really know what we want to, right? I think that's what makes this episode hard too, is like we want this, but then on a different day we might want something a little bit different. And so I think that's where sometimes the mind reading has to come in. But speaking of intimacy, and please do share with us, if you're watching right now, please do share with us when it comes to sex, what more do you want from your partner? And so to the audience, again, to keep us not as shy, please do share in the comments. You guys get a comment behind the screen, so we get to kind of talk about it openly. So hopefully we can have a good conversation about just how we want to be more intimate with our partners and what we would like to have more of.
But please be appropriate either. We don't want your comment to get flagged and then to get taken down.
I'll go first. I think for me, I honestly want more foreplay, and I think it comes in different forms because I feel that really sets the tone for the bedroom. And it can start from when you wake up, compliments throughout the day, teases, throughout the day, physical touch, and then just kind of giving them different looks. I think it's the foreplay throughout the day that leads up to like the finale. And so I think that really helps, like, again, set the tone for the bedroom, and it really makes a difference. It really makes a difference. So that's what I would say, more foreplay and different forms. Again, it doesn't have to be in the bedroom, but I think it can start in different areas. Try it, and who knows, it might be your new thing.
Leila, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the comment section. Someone's listening for sure. Men, hope you're taking notes.
I can say, okay, so my perspective is a little different in terms of, I think, in terms of like sex, I do think that girls, yes, foreplay, I agree, Leila. I think foreplay is great. And I do think that does make it better. However, I do think that when we think of like men in relationship and sex, I do think that goes one-on-one with like, if your partner is not helping you enough, if your partner is not doing things, like I think it's just really give and take kind of. Like if he's not helping you, he's just doing, out drinking all the time, and you're home and doing things for the kids or whatever. I do think that, you're not going to want to have sex with them. Like, let's just admit it. You're going to be tired. You're going to be like, no. And so your intimate, your sex life is not going to be great. So I do think giving and taking is a big thing where you are helping, and it's a partnership. It's not, you just give, in that sense. So, take notes, man. I do think that, help your wife, help your girlfriend more, and you're going to have amazing sex.
I love that, Chong. It's true, because if you get help and you don't feel so stressed about having to take care of everything, I think you won't be so tired at the end of the day, and you're more willing to give a little more.
Yeah. I love Tai Juthal's comment where it says, intimacy is the world. LOL. It goes beyond sexual intercourse. It can be just holding hands, writing love notes, and giving praises. I think that kind of encapsulates, like, Chong, what you just said, and Leela, what you just said, is that like the foreplay, the teasing, but also like, shit, back through Jay, so I'm not so tired. So I can actually enjoy all of that stuff with you. I love that. Any other comments?
I do echo Leela with the foreplay. I think because the foreplay is like the build up. It slowly builds up instead of just jumping right in and expecting everything to work out down there. It's not always like that. Especially, I think it's just the way women's bodies work. It's like we slowly build it up. We don't necessarily just jump right in and do it. One thing I personally would say when it comes to sex is that what's important to me is emotions and feelings when it comes to it. Like, I'm not a fan of sex where you actually don't like the person, kind of like one night stands. Like, I'm not a fan of casual sex. For me, sex always has to be with someone that I have feelings towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, that it's like giving and taking, right? Like, I'm not a big fan of quickies. I feel like, like they got to spend some time, and it takes me time. So they have to spend time. And so it's like if someone's just always into quickies, and it's kind of like, well, you're just really here for yourself, versus like you really making sure that I'm happy too, and we both can be happy. And so, and however that long that takes, whether that's 60 minutes or 90 minutes, you better go. So,
yeah. I think so Chi says longer sessions because of kids. I only laugh, and I'm saying that because I can relate to that. Like, we just got my son out of our room, so it's just my husband and I, and so we're able to kind of just like enjoy our sex life a little bit more, because it is so much harder when you've got kids who like sleep with you, or like they're in the same room. It's a lot harder. So I must say, like, that for me has been amazing the last couple of months, just because my kiddo's out of the room now. So let's see here. I'm just reading comments because some of these are hilarious, and then some of them I can.
And there was a question from Sang that I wanted to put up.
I saw that one too.
Yeah, if y'all want to address this. So he asked, what are your minimum requirements in a guy? Looks, height, income, or do you give every guy a shot?
Let's talk about that, ladies. I think everybody wants to know.
I think that there's a list of wants and there's a list of needs. So it really depends on where you're at in your life. Do you want to fulfill your needs to build a strong relationship, in the long term, or do you really just want to have fun and just want to fulfill your wants, right? And so me, I mean, all of my wants were not checked. Like, I have a boyfriend right now, if I'm gonna be completely honest. I asked him before the show, are you okay with me disclosing anything? He's like, I don't care, go ahead. So here we go. Did he check the height on my box? No, he did not. But he's still my boyfriend. Did the income, he has his own job, an adult job. So I mean, I'm good with that. He checked that box. So I mean, looks, yeah, he checked that box. You know, it's kind of like it didn't check all of the boxes, but still, it depends on what I want. Do I give every guy a shot? No, I don't. I friend zone like more than half of them. But you know, there are like a few of them that I do give a shot for, and then like I find out in time that no, we're maybe just better off as friends because that I don't feel anything more than just friends. And you know, it sucks that sometimes you have to have these conversations with men, but you know, I'm just lucky that a lot of the conversations I've had with the men in the past have been good, you know, and so yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I mean, how important do these minimum requirements really matter though? And I think that's a huge question we should ask ourselves too. It's like I I've never dated someone who checked all my boxes, but then again, it's like sometimes you can't help who you fall for. Sometimes you can't help catch feelings for someone that might not even check half of your boxes, but then because you like this person so much for who they are, all of a sudden your minimum requirements don't matter as much anymore because of your feelings, which kind of take over what you look for in that guy. And I think that constantly changes as you get older. Like your requirements, things that you look for in a guy just constantly is changing. And it comes from like experiences, the people that you interact with, and all of that kind of plays a role into it.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I think with age too. So like if you ask 10 years ago, if you asked me, I would say, oh yeah, looks, height, everything, right? I'm a little bit more picky if you want to say. But I think now I think about like looks. I'm like, you know, if I'm attracted to them in some way, yes, that's fine. But I think it's really like that. If are they kind and like can we connect in a way where you know they make decent money. You know they can't be a bum. So yes, income does matter. I want them to be able to provide too and give. And so I do think that I think with age, I think your preference changes. I don't think that it's really looks at all matter. Like the look is, I think would be lower on my list now than if you asked me like 10 years ago. So I do think that depending on like the boxes you want to say, I do think they're shifting every, I don't know, I would say every few years or even like every day. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I think actually that might be okay. That guy might be okay. Even though he's not my typical ideal guy that looks like someone I would want to date or be with. So I do think as you get older, your preference changes. So yeah. So I can't give you a definite yes. There's a minimum requirement that every woman is different and that you can't really summarize, in my opinion, what women want.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the minimum requirements is like a type. You know, like everyone has a certain type that they like or that they're attracted to. But like I always use my husband as an example because when I met him, he was not my type, you know. My type, I want a tall guy because I'm short. I want him to be handsome, of course. And I want him to have a good job so he can, you know, help provide. But you know, when I met my husband, he was not my type. He was taller than me, but it's gonna sound funny. I didn't really like the way he looked. I mean, he's not ugly, you know, but he wasn't like that, you know, supermodel look that I like, you know, like it was like the fantasy look. Um, and but you know, I got to know him. The more I got to know him, I start falling in love with his other qualities, you know, like the way he can communicate with my parents, the way he's thoughtful, the way he cares for me. All of that outweigh somebody's look or their height. So that's my opinion on it. I feel like at first, you know, your minimum requirements might just kind of get that person through the door. But if you're able to spend time with a certain person and get to know them, I think you might fall in love and the minimum requirements won't even matter.
Yeah, I agree. I think like people probably want us to say yes, this, yes, that. They have to be this tall, they have to look this good, they have to have over six figures, and they have to and no, I think the last question saying, do you give every guy a shot? I don't think any woman does, period. Because if you think about it, like physical attraction is so important because it's kind of the first thing that gets you in the door, right? That's why I say shower, make an effort to look good when you go out. um it's kind of the first like impression people see. And so I think like, yeah, we may have all of these like requirements, but at the end of the day, like and you talk to them and they do have some sort, you are somewhat physically like attracted to them in order to even give them a shot. The ones that we friend zone are the ones where we're like, he knew Shejong, but he's not my type. I'm not physically attracted to him in that way. Maybe later on, there have been stories where you friend zone someone and later down the road, like you become best friends and then you end up marrying them and whatnot. But very rarely do I kind of hear those kind of stories. But I think like I agree with all you ladies. I think we may have these minimum requirements, but they change constantly depending on who you meet. They either kind of your requirements, you're either like, I'm okay with this now because he has all of these other amazing qualities that all these other things don't, like your height don't even matter anymore, right? So I just think this is very different for every single person. But I honestly think that I can say for all women that we don't give every guy a shot, period. And I think guys can say the same too, that they don't give every woman a shot.
Right.
So,
It's kind of like, I mean, to me, it's kind of like a job interview, right? You have like the maybe the big things that you're like, nope, 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 until you can whittle it down, because it is really hard to like you just don't have enough time to give everybody a chance. And if somebody really wanted to be with you, they would try to, somehow get around you more. And I think that does provide for an opportunity to have more shared time together. Maybe that's how they can shine. But other than that, I think it's hard to, like if you're already kind of like out of the picture in a person's mind, it's hard to like get in there. I think. But yeah, I would say, sometimes you like people and you don't even know really why. It's just that one thing that lets you overlook a lot of these other things that you really are looking for. I know when I first got divorced, and Olivia can remember this, and I think we had this conversation where we talked about my lists, and that has since changed because I realized I was working with a different population now. And so, but I think that's kind of like when, like the way I think about it is when I lived in Georgia, like a certain amount of money buys a big home on land, right? And then I get up here and I realize like, actually this buys nothing up here. It's outdated and stuff, right? But I kind of learned to live with it. And now I love my home, I feel like that with like our requirements too, is of course we're going to biologically look for, the top notch or, all the things that we really want, right? And then you kind of learn like, actually there are these things about this person that just really draws me to them, and they really help me shine and feel good, and I really care about them. And so then then you start overlooking all these things about their how they look or their height or their income, and you end up falling in love with them.
Yeah, if I can just add something else, I think it's also really important to ask the right questions. I feel like your men, you guys, I feel like maybe some of you guys are too focused on physical looks, income, and all that those things, but just listen to what we just said. We're looking for the emotional connection. Yes, there's certain things that you need to check in order to make it through like that first round, like we were saying, hygiene. Of course we have to have some kind of attraction, but in order to continue it, just make note. Maybe it's not how you look, maybe it's not how much you're making, maybe it's how am I carrying myself.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to sense of humor, I'm attracted to intelligence. It's not so much the physical looks or how much they make, it's about my connection with them. So think about, evaluate, reflect, and think about what you're doing, how you're carrying yourself when you're around the women that you're attracted to, and how are you going to find that connection with them, not through the physical looks but through emotional connection.
yeah, 100%, Layla. I
All
agree. All
right.
right.
that concludes the last of our questions. Ladies, do you have any last words? I know we asked, very specific questions, and I know we, within the hour, and we're already over the hour, but it's hard to really get everything, out there, what we can give guidance to men. But if you can just leave the men with a last word, what would you say?
I think I already kind of said mine, so I'm done.
Almost forgot what I was going to say too. Actually, I just want to say that when you meet the right person, love will be easy. You don't have to try so hard to, meet her expectation. I feel like the love will be mutually reciprocated. And so, just be confident in yourself and be you.
MK or Chong, any last words? And you don't have to have any last words.
I was just thinking there's so many things going through my mind right now. So I can't try to summarize it. But if I can summarize what we kind of talked about, and it's kind of a funny one, but I really think hygiene, like I know we talked about that, but really, men, like all the men listening right now, I just think that hygiene is so important. And like, yes, that's first impression, and just yes, take care of yourself. Hygiene.
Okay, I had to think about this a little bit, but I would say, especially for men, I would say just to know that as women, like, we don't ask for a lot. We don't want a lot in a man. We literally just want you for who you are as a person. So when you meet us, like, just be you. Like, show us who you are. Give us that confidence, because all men have confidence. Some of them just don't build enough confidence to like put it out there, but it's like confidence is really sexy on a man, and women see it all the time when you talk to us. So definitely just be you. Put yourself out there. I mean, what do you have to lose? Like, the worst thing that could happen is just getting rejected, but it's not the end of the day. It's really not. Put yourself out there. Just like I said, we don't want a lot. We want you for you, and we want you for your true, genuine self. So you don't need to try to like be someone else, or you don't need to try to pick up think like if you know that we have interest in like something, like you don't need to try to get interest in whatever I like for me to like you. I like you for who you are. So genuinely is really important. So just being genuine, be honest, and we'll see that in you.
Yeah, I would definitely just add that just being like body language and, messaging, how she's coming across, right? Like if she's texting back or messaging back, like kind of like catch the clue, and act accordingly. If you're confused, ask friends, right? I think that sometimes people try really hard or chase when that person might not even be for you. Like you might think that that you're attracted to that person, but if you get to know them, you might realize actually like I'm not attracted to them. And so I think just paying attention to body language and how they are like when you're talking and messaging and things like that, I think is important. Anything else to add, Olivia?
Nope, I think you guys kind of said it all. I agree with Chong. I think for me, it's all about hygiene, like I cannot stress that enough. Like, it's so important, guys. Like, just be you and try your best. Put in effort. That's all. I think as women, if we see not just in hygiene, but like an effort in everything, like if you put in effort in like asking the person out or just in the relationship overall, I think that helps a lot. So
Agree. And yeah, just ask if you're deep enough, like asking her and talking to her, right? Communication is key. And so, all right, that includes us, this episode of What Women Want. Hopefully this has given you some insight, maybe taken away something that you learned that is new. Again, I know it's hard to cover everything and answer every question, as we are 6 women and we don't stand for every woman, every Hmong woman or non-Hmong women. And of course, we are going to have a What Men Want episode. So men, if you are out there and you're hearing us and it's just making you feel some type of way, definitely reach out to us and let us know. We'd love to have you on the What Men Want episode and also learn from you as well. And again, this episode really is just kind of be frank about the stuff that we are asking for, and what we want. And so with that, thank you again for everyone that sent stars. I know that there were a lot of people during the show that was sending stars, and so we can't individually thank you, but of course your contribution really helps us in this show. And with that, we will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye.